and welcome to another episode of Across the Board. Tonight is a very big episode. This is episode 30, and tonight I'm joined by a very special guest, as you can all see by this beautiful logo sitting next to me tonight. Tonight we have the Commish from Solanaut Stables. How are you doing tonight, sir?
I'm doing great, MJ. I appreciate the warm welcome. Definitely not special, but I'll take it.
So we're gonna dive right in. I mean, this is definitely more of an intro stream as we talked about, but your name is well known, and there's a lot I want to talk about tonight. So I've got to know, where did the nickname the Commish come from?
So it's a very simple story. I want to say 20, 21 years ago now. Gosh, I'm aging myself. I started a fantasy football league in college, and literally on that day, 20 years ago, my friends all started calling me the commish. And so I've been the commish in real life for 2 decades. And when I created my Web3 persona, it was a natural fit. I didn't have to come up with something crazy. I'm not a frog. I'm not an animal. I'm just a commish. And I've always been interested in space, and my logo on Twitter is an astronaut, and so that's always just been who I am. And it's been a great segue. And it's funny because even my friends in real life who are not involved in Web3 at all, still call me the commission. So it's just like a natural, uh, connection between both worlds for me.
You've got that's a cool crossover there, and I like that story. And it sounds like the league is still going. Is that correct?
Yeah, the unfortunate part is I've been the commish for 20 years, and I actually write. I used to write like these weekly. I don't want to say a blog, but just like
Sure.
a weekly recap, like talking crap about all the owners, about how bad their teams were and how great my teams were. And I was always write it in third person, and so I was always like, the commish is this or the commish is that, and to this day, I've actually never won a fantasy football championship in my own league, and so it's the curse of the commish, as we say.
Wow, that's a pretty bad one. I'm in the Illinois area. That reminds me of like the Cubs being cursed, but they got the World Series, so hopefully your time is
Yeah,
coming soon.
yeah, I'm hoping so. This past year I drafted Justin Jefferson.
Okay.
Foolproof pick, of course, and he pulls his hammy, and then I had Garrett Wilson as a keeper, and his quarterback goes down in the first play of the first quarter. There's just you know there's just always a curse when it comes to fantasy football around me.
This might be worse than the Madden curse. You'll
It's
have to
it's
keep
right
me
up there.
posted with how this goes next
Yeah,
season.
whatever I do in fantasy football, literally do the opposite.
Yeah, I will fade you so hard. We'll have to keep in touch when the season starts up. Um, so where does then you mentioned you have interest in space too? So Solonaut, is there any sort of tie in there? Where did that come from?
Yeah, so it's a combination of both Solana. Right, that's where you get it's actually the word Solana is in that word, is in the
Yeah.
Solanaut word, and then astronaut, right? So you just pull out the astro and you just say not, and then we just combine the words to be Solanaut. And so actually back in September of 21, well, even prior to that, my buddies and I were in NFTs back on Ethereum when things were getting started, and right when Solana NFT started ripping, we actually created an NFT collection. Only 500 NFTs, a bunch of astronauts. We call them Solanauts, and so we've tried to pivot and try to bring value and do all these different things. And so they still exist. We're still around. We're still doing a lot of fun stuff, and my two partners are still running the show over there. And people who do hold the Solanauts, we actually have some photo finish perks uh, for holding the Solanauts. And so I haven't really advertised this much because I really want PFL to really be number one and really be on top of the forefront of people's minds. And then we'll really start showcasing like what those benefits are.
Mhm.
But we have people in the community like Philly Shell, Mr. B, Big Brain, um, Sir B Rad. So there's a bunch of people in there, and they get discounts for breeding, holding these knots forever, and there's no charge. It's just you own the asset, and it's just like an access pass. And so we have a lot of details around that within the Discord, and I can certainly share that information, but I don't really share that too much in the PFL community at the moment because I want to keep those separate until PFL really becomes, the premier Web3 game that I think it will be.
Nice. I love that. It's exciting. I'll have to check that out. I'm very interested in that. Big space guy myself. Yeah, we'll have to chat offline about this. So, um, kind of shifting gears then, based off of your name, Solana Astronaut, you have your own collection. Was Solana the first chain you got into? How did you get into crypto?
I want to say it was 2017. It
Wow.
was New Year. It was New Year's Eve. I went down to my buddy's house in Atlantic City, and three of my friends had these actual physical bitcoins. And they're like, those mementos, like those little gold mementos.
Yeah.
And they're like, yeah, we bought these bitcoins online, and then we bought these bitcoins. And I remember like laughing at them. Like, what are you buying the stupid internet money for? Like, what is this stuff?
Yeah.
They're like, it's worth $5,000. It's going crazy. It's going to be worth so much more. And I'm like, I remember when I was in college, these kids were talking about like, I think it was like World of Warcraft and like how in depth those economies were, and like people were doing reports on them.
Yeah.
And I'm like, this is like so out of my league. I'm just not interested in it. And then I used to make fun of them, of course, for a little while. And then shortly afterwards, I started doing my own research. I'm like, you know what? Maybe there is something here. And of course, at the time, um, you know, people are talking about it's going to overthrow the financial system and it's going to do this and it's going to do that. And I'm like, this is literally crazy talk. Um, and I always remember watching the markets, and like every coin would drop at the same time. Every coin would rise at the same time. And I'm like, this is totally manipulated. This doesn't make any sense. But I bought a few sats, I want to say like late 20 or yeah, middle 2018.
Wow.
And then, ever since then, just been stacking. I think I've been stacking Bitcoin now for almost little over 5 years straight. So every month, little investment, and some months are bigger than others. And so, I've been in crypto for, quite some time. And then I started learning about DeFi on Ethereum. And so we spent some time, trying to find out which coins would do amazing during the DeFi summer of 2020.
Hmm.
And that was very successful for us. And so we knew it was really like the core three or four of us. And then after that, we were trying to figure out like what is the next frontier right after DeFi. DeFi, the hype is not going to last forever, and sure enough, it didn't. Um, and so I actually was researching online, like again, crypto storylines, narratives, and we came across this guy called Maddie, and he was the DCL blogger, right, for Decentraland. And I want to say this was
Okay.
like in November, October, November, maybe of 2020. And so we ended up buying um, Decentraland. Well, we bought Mana, which is a Decentraland token, and then we ended up buying land in DCL, which we still have. A whole bunch of crappy NFTs and Ethereum that don't exist anymore. The gas fees at the time were like $150, but we spent a lot of time on like Nifty Gateway, and they were doing like basically these casino draws. Like you enter your name, you hit a ticket, you could sell it for 5 6x guaranteed, no problem. Right after the mint.
Mhm.
And so we just played around a lot there, and then somehow I got introduced to Star Atlas, probably through Twitter. And this guy was just talking, Wagner was talking about how we're minting on Solana, and we have these posters, and XYZ. And so we're like, the Solana thing seems pretty cool. Let's try this out. And so we ended up downloading these Solid wallets, which was like the OG wallet for Solana.
Yeah.
Um, and we ended up minting these posters on Starless. And if you minted like a couple, you hit like a certain tier, and then more tiers and more tiers. And so I think we minted like the first five, which was the tier one and tier two, and then we got all these crazy airdrops like a year later. And uh and that was honestly like my foray into Solana was through Star Atlas. And I haven't
Wow.
really paid much attention to it since then.
Yeah.
But I remember we we bought like Soul Punks. It's funny because at the time we were like, all right, there's Soul Punks, and then there's these Pixel SMB things. I'm like, I don't want more pixels. I hate crypto punks. Like it just seems so silly to me.
Yeah.
And sure enough, I middle curved that, and we spent you know 30, 40, 50 Soul on the waves from Fract. I spent like 100 Soul on uh, Solstead's like at the top. Just so many bad stories around all the bad mints, and I faded SMB forever. And of course, SMB was the one that took off. But listen, you win some, you lose some. We were very successful early on in our crypto career, not so successful in our NFT career. But then I found Ian, um, promoting his horse PFP
Mhm.
on a Twitter space, and I'm like, who the heck wants these horse PFPs? Like this, like there's enough PFPs out there. Why do I need to be a horse?
Right.
And so I was like, you know what? Let me do my own research. I'm open to listen to anything. And then sure enough, I'm like, holy cow, this guy is legit. His background is impeccable. This is like potentially a real game. And of course, it was very rudimentary in terms of where we were in development and what it could be. But I thought, what, let me shoot this guy a DM. Let me see if I can get some more information. And I did. And then of course, I'm before I even get into the Discord, I'm like, man, I want to be the digital Bob Baffert. Like, this is who I'm going to be. This makes total sense. I love horses. My grandfather was a big horseman,
Well,
and so this it just felt like a natural fit for me. And then, sure enough, like I said, from time to time in your life, you get lucky, jumping on an opportunity, and it's. I wouldn't say it's a surprise that Photo Finish is as successful as it is because I always felt like it would be, but it's just incredible to see the progress and the growth from where they are to where they are today, and couldn't be happier for them, and couldn't be happier for the community too. A lot of these things are risky, and it's a whole different frontier for people like us to be able to be involved on the ground level of budding industries, or budding opportunities. And this is just one of those, in my opinion, one of those once in a lifetime opportunities. And people like you, MJ, and others who are doing content creation around this, is just a testament to what they've built, and the value, and not even just the value, but really just the fun and entertainment that they brought to a space that's been plagued by a lot of negative news and a lot of negative press over the last couple of years.
yeah, yeah, it absolutely has. And when I like look at projects, evaluate projects, one of the things that really sticks out is pacing and being able to, hold on to your community, hold on to your market, and be able to deliver it at a rate that's consistent. And that's been something that personally I've been really happy with PFL through their different phases. The PFP to the breeding, I wasn't a part of that, but I got a ticket, I got 2 tickets, I was a part of the betas, and just seeing how far this has come and how quickly this has come has been really, really nice. You mentioned your grandfather had connection with horses, and you had a love for horses. Is there any like memory tied to your grandfather or tied to horses at a young age that sticks out, that Photo Finish kind of gives you that nostalgia feeling about?
This is an amazing question. Nobody's ever asked me this before, but I have a good answer for this because there is an answer for this. So, my grandfather grew up in Argentina. He moved here when he was, I want to say, 35 or so. My mother was born there, so I'm first generation on my grandfather's side. And so there's pictures of him and my mother and her older sister in the field riding horses and the carriages. That was always his thing. And when he first came to America, one of the first things he did was he went to the Belmont Stakes to go watch Secretariat win the Triple Crown.
Oh
And
my
so
god.
he's got a picture at Belmont, and then he's got a picture at Belmont years later of him at the Secretariat statue right at Belmont. And so in his home or in his apartment growing up, he had this really beautiful, I want to say, I don't want to say like a statue, like a stand, right? Like maybe it's like 4 feet tall, a box of like maybe 1 by 1 or 2 by 2. And on the stand, he had this brass horse. And I remember as a kid, like, this thing is so cool. Look at this thing. It's like got all the muscles, and it's a prominent, like decoration in his loft. And so I remember I always wanted that. And he'd always say, like, yo, when I pass away one day, like, you'll get some of this stuff. And I always wanted the horse. And so he passed away about 10 years ago. Uh, and so, we have a lot of cousins, a lot of family members. Everybody wanted something. And I ended up getting the horse. And so today I still have the horse, and it's actually it's made its rounds around the house, like where it's stationed. Um, but my wife has been more forgiving around where I can place it now that obviously photo finish has been very successful. And so every day now I have the horse, by my computer, and it's a big horse. It's not like this little 2x2 figurine. It's probably 30 pounds heavy. It's pure solid brass. I have to clean it from time to time, but it's a representation of the risk my grandfather took to come to America with no money, exiled from Argentina because of his family's connections with the Peron government, and to for him to do that gave me this opportunity to be here today. And so I'll never forget what he did for me and my family, or what he did for my mother, and then ultimately our family. And so we get to reap the rewards of his effort, right, and his risk that he took coming over here, decades ago.
That's beautiful. I don't know if I've ever had a story like that be told on the stream before. Thank you so much for sharing that. And if you feel willing or comfortable enough, would love to see a picture of that statue posted on your X profile. I think that'd be pretty cool.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. I'll after the stream, I'll post a picture.
Would love that. Would absolutely love that. So you have deep family ties, meaningful family ties into horses, into horse racing. You have this beautiful statue in your place right now. You get into crypto early, you're stacking by just kind of the natural evolution of things. You stumble into games, come into PFL. You see the PFPs, you seem a little hesitant about those. So, how did you get in? And how did you decide to get in? What was kind of the tipping point for you to get into photo finish? Outside of obviously you mentioned believing in the team, getting excited about that. What was kind of your entry point in terms of what you got?
Yeah, so I was always a gamer growing up as a kid. I played FIFA forever. I still think I can kick anybody's butt. I played a lot of NHL. I played a lot of Madden. In college, I must have skipped hundreds of classes, playing Madden tournaments with my friends. And so I was always a gamer. And I quit gaming. I don't know, a number of years ago because I just felt like, what value is this actually going to bring to my life? But then the whole NFT crypto space, it just felt like crypto is going to be much bigger than just a new financial system. Like everything is going to be built on this technology, and so again, you just take a risk. And so at the time when I learned about photo finish through Ian's Twitter space, I had bought a ton of Soul when it was like 25 bucks back in the day, and so I did very well on that trade. And so during that, I would transition some of that soul into the PFPs. I think the first PFP I ever bought was like rank 21, maybe one of the studs. And then they started talking about this airdrop, right? And so every stud has like a 25% chance of getting a filly. And if you get a filly, you match it to your stud, you can make a great racehorse. And I'm like, man, I don't want like the 21st best horse. I want the best horse. And I don't want just the best horse. I want the top five best horses. And so just over time, and the more belief I had, I just kept stacking and stacking and stacking. And so I think I only got airdropped two fillies, but then I minted a bunch more. And then from there is just for pun intended, off to the races. Just I got more money, fine, forget it, let's just stack. Then as Soul started to dwindle and go down, and that kind of that peak bull market vibes were kind of losing its luster, I'm like, well, I might as well buy these assets and see what happens. Like if this racetrack ownership thing is really a thing, let me get more PFPs. If creating a racehorse, people are going to compete and bet, like, let me get more PFPs. And so I just ended up slowly but surely stacking, let's say one a week on average, kind of DCAing my way into photo finish as well over time. And so I wouldn't say there was any one catalyst that really made me confirm, other than just the community being so engaged. And there's a lot of people who are still around from 2 3 years ago when this thing first kicked off, and that's a testament to the team, it's a testament to the product, it's a testament to the interest. And I said this a long time ago, but the cool thing about this is, when you think about other NFT projects, right? And not that this is an NFT project, this is way more than a project, right? This is a product at this point. But NFT projects typically had like-minded people joining those particular groups, right? The Bored Apes had a very particular demographic who were buying Bored Apes. Azuki had a very particular demographic who was buying Azuki NFTs. And I was participating in the PFL community, we had college students, we had 60-year-olds, I think we had like a 70-year-old at one point. We might even still have that. We have people in Australia, in New Zealand, in the UK, in North America, in South America. I'm like, holy cow, like this community is so far and wide, right? North and south, east and west. It's capturing every demographic. That's a really bullish thesis, right, for what they're going to put together. And then when you start understanding like how big horse racing really is globally, and you kind of remove yourself from the North American bubble, like we think football is the greatest sport on the planet. Who
Yeah.
else is watching football, right?
Right.
Like maybe the Germans now because they get one game a year, right? Maybe Wembley because they get two games a year. But outside of that, who's watching football? Right? NBA is actually bigger internationally than it is in North America. And the same thing for horse racing. And so that was really an eye opener for me to think about, wow, if there's so many other people throughout the world who are also thinking about having a game that's also on the same level as FIFA, as Madden, as NHL, as pick your sport, this is the one. This is absolutely the one. And then when you throw in like the pure ownership dynamic, like I get to name my own horses. I love the fact that I have hot sauce, I have shockwave, I have prime time. Like I get to name horses that mean something to me. They resonate with me, and there's just like this emotional attachment to, I'm air quoting the NFT that you don't get anywhere else. You just do not get that in any other project anywhere on earth or anywhere on the blockchain. And so that again for me was another differentiator between what this game can produce or has produced versus what other, again, air quoting projects have been able to accomplish. And so for me, this is a no brainer, not financial advice, of course, but I
Yep.
just think that this thing will last for not just years, but decades. And Ian has said it before, this game can be evergreen. I totally believe that. I see, this is total enterprise software at the moment. And so a lot of the updates they've been able to share, uh, and just think about how excited we are with the information we do know. Do you know how much information's out there, MJ, that we don't know that these guys are working on, that they
Yeah.
probably cannot wait to share with us about what they're about to land or about to do? Like that's the thing that a lot of people they only see what's in front of them, but they're not thinking about what's behind the scenes or about to be dropped or launched. And so for me, that's what I think about is okay, they've shared this, right? But I know they got way more in the tank uh, besides just what they announced today. And so that's the cool part for me, and I think for a lot of people who are participating in this ecosystem. And again, we have 2,000 stables. In my eyes, 200,000. Right? Don't just add a zero. Add like five zeros. Is really where the north star is in terms of what this can be.
What of all those things, if you had to pick one thing that really just kind of like stands out that gets you most excited about what has been built so far and what Third Time has created with this product, as you mentioned, what's that one thing of everything that you thought of, or maybe something you didn't mention that sticks out? Like that is the kind of, to use your language, the North Star, the guiding light, the um, throw a little space analogy on it.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I love it. I
What
love it.
is that one thing for you?
Well, I think saying one thing is a disservice to them, so I don't want to say like this
Yeah,
is the only thing, but I truly believe the lane that they are carving, right? And Ian found this lane years ago with HRM. And he's like, there's literally not a horse racing game. And for me, that's the only thing that you need to sell this vision is the fact that this is one of the biggest sports on the planet and this game doesn't exist. Or a game for the or not that a game doesn't exist, but a game at this level, this capacity, this popularity doesn't exist. And so that's a massive void to fill, and the gaming industry is worth hundreds of billions of dollars. This is not like 20 years ago when Intellivision and Atari were making their way onto the scene. There's actual real value here, And the crazy thing is, you see people who are playing like Call of Duty and they're spending 100 grand on these skins for their guns, and like literally Call of Duty could shut down tomorrow, and you just wasted your entire investment. You don't own that. You can't even sell it to somebody else. It's and who did you buy that from, right? You bought that from the creators. Whereas here, it's really a truly player-owned economy. You can't get anything that they created. You can only get stuff that we created, and that's a really really powerful narrative, in my opinion, about what this game offers. It's not even what the game offers. It's really what the community offers, right? Like what the the actions we take, the decisions we make, really influence the trajectory of the game going forward. And that to me is the big differentiator between Web3 gaming versus legacy Web2 gaming.
So you talk about that ownership, and that's a big draw for me personally. Um, Thinking about games like FIFA packs, thinking about Fortnite and skins and unlocks. That was a huge appeal for me. I won't even say problem, but like sometimes it can get to a point where the growth happens because you get so into it, you love it, you believe in it, that your seed that you started with grows into this beautiful jungle teeming with life of
Yeah.
different aspects of NFTs. And so kind of pivoting that to you and your stable, you started with just some PFPs, and now I see there's something, what I believe it's 95 horses in your stable. That excludes ones you may have listed. And you've got some very fun names. You've got some amazing grades. S plus fillies. How do you keep track of all of that? How do you manage that?
Well, there's definitely some secrets that I have to keep here,
Fair,
MJ.
100% respect that.
Um,
Respect that.
no, no, but let's give people some context here. So, and Sakis, I don't know how to say his name, but I like his contributions. And one of the things he wrote there was anybody can come in at any time. And I want to build on that point in terms of like how I built my stable. The cool thing is about the game, you enter at your budget, you enter in at your risk tolerance, and then you satisfy your ego, right? And for me, that's the way I describe it for somebody who wants to come in.
Mhm.
You can come in with $1 million like Ted, or you can come in with $100 and figure your way through. And so when you think about stable construction, right? I was fortunate to be part of the early adopters, right? And we get to build, this massive stable worth I don't even know how much money with a very small investment. It's a different dynamic today. But the principles of the game remain true. Like if I do nothing and I just sit on these assets, my assets and my influence will eventually go to zero, right? Because all the horses will die. So this is a game that requires active participation, active management, and really requires people to stay, like, again, air quoting, on top of your game, right, in order to be at the top of the game. And that's a really cool dynamic of being on the treadmill, in terms of how the game progresses over time, where it doesn't feel like it's gatekeeping newcomers from being able to hop in and be successful. And all it takes is one horse, right? And I think was it Eisenhart maybe or Intense? I forget who it is. Uh, they just bred and made Sovereign Shot, which is another really cool horse. And his top breeding revenue any season was like I think $1,000, and now he made like $10,000 in his one season. Completely changes his trajectory now of the game. Anybody can do that, and that's really cool. But in terms of like managing a stable, right? I think it's really important to stay small to start, and I would even consider myself a small or medium-sized stable against the OGs, right? The people who are
Sure.
early adopters. There's plenty of people who have hundreds and hundreds of horses. I don't want to get there. I don't think that's uh, manageable. I don't think it's the right thing to do, to be honest. And listen, right or wrong is debatable, of course. Uh, I do think we need to be incentivized to spread that love a little bit further and let other people create horses instead of people hoarding them. But that's another story for another day.
Sure.
And so what I would say is for people getting started in the game or even veterans, like have a plan. Like again, we go back to the North Star example. What do you want to accomplish, right? Map that out. And then your journey should get you to that destination. You can't just be on the journey and not know where you're going and oh, I want to do this or I want to do that or I want to try everything. You can't do that to start, right? You really have to know what your destination is, what your end goal is. And so when I see a lot of these questions all the time in Discord, like, well, where do I start? Or I have this X budget, well, what should I do? And I am in the process of writing up an article now. It's going to take me probably another couple of weeks though to finish it because it's pretty in depth. But it's at what level, based on your risk tolerance, based on your ego, like what are the different ways to play this game? Right? What are the recommendations? Right? If you have $1,000, do you spend $1,000 on a Philly? I would definitely not recommend that. Right? You don't want to spend all your money on a Philly. Then you have to retire. Then you have to breed her 20 seasons in a row. That's going to cost you another $1,200 at a minimum. And then you're not including race fees. You're not including fees to race your new foals, right? So there's a lot of that future or forward-looking dynamic that people are not considering or not aware of. And so I want to bring that to light, right? I really want to remove that from the shadows, so people get a much better idea of what does it actually take, to run this business. And I think some people may be scared of thinking about this as a business, and honestly, like that's probably okay. But this really truly is a business. When you involve money in a game, right? It's not a game anymore. It's business. And so how do you capitalize on what the business opportunities are? And the people who are really savvy, right? Really um, critical thinkers, they use a lot of logic in their thought process, they're gonna do very well. And that's true for any game. And that's true for any business. Now you combine game and business together, and the people will really shine who have those skills to be able to identify those opportunities.
You mentioned when we first started talking about this about how a lot of these opportunities come from breeding. Now, obviously, there are different ways to earn. You've even talked about the different economies in your articles within photo finish. But I want to kind of pause and focus on breeding because I do think that is a great source of opportunity. Um, is there any sort of, I guess, you have an article on breeding. Is
Yeah.
there anything you would change to that article or amend to that article if you were to re-release that today?
I wouldn't change it. And I've actually reread it, I want to say a month ago. I wouldn't change anything. I would add a few layers that, or maybe like go a little bit deeper on certain topics. But I think again, the key to horse racing, like real life horse racing, analog horse racing, is the best horses make the most money in the stud barn. It is no secret, and that's what all these stable owners are trying to do: create the best stud that they can make, that can win on the track, and then you can capitalize on that investment. All you need is one. And so, if the game is going to mimic real life or mirror real life or represent real life, why wouldn't breeding also be as successful here as well? And that was always my thought process, right? Connecting the dots between the two systems, right? The analog and the digital system. Uh, and today, like again, I still think if you're a player in the game, it doesn't matter what grade you're at, because again, there's going to be, in my opinion, not financial advice, hundreds of thousands of stables. Not every stable is going to breed with an S or an S plus or an SS minus or an SS. There eventually will be a time where A plus A's and A pluses will absolutely get breeding demand. And so how do you make your horses stand out? I mean, that's really the name of the game, right? This is a lot different than real life. In real life, it's easy to stand out because you're on TV, right? And horse racing really isn't that wide in North America, right? There's a very small funnel. It's only a couple thousand horses that are competing at the highest levels, and everybody knows who the best, 10, 15 horses are, right? The best 20 horses in the Kentucky Derby are the best ones. Now, in the game, you can have thousands of players, hundreds of thousands of horses. How do you stand out? And so for me, it's of course you're going to have to win on the track at some point. Early on, you didn't have to. Going forward, you have to. The DNA has to prove that it's worth its value. So you got to win on the track. Then you got to have, in my opinion, strong marketing or branding. People have to know who you are. And I think that's one of the things that I've really focused on. And it's not just creating the articles. Of course that helps. It's not just going on streams. Of course that helps. But it's literally every day putting that message out there, getting your logo, um, in people's faces, having a theme, right, or a brand that's consistent in nature. And so I think I've done a really good job at being able to capture attention or capture the audience so that when I do have even an above average stud, they want to look at my stud because it maybe fills some need or some gap that may exist. And so I think if people can replicate what we're doing, and there's a lot of people who are doing a lot of really good stuff and doing it their own way as well, that's a really big key for success, right? It's about standing out from the crowd. And so you can do that a few ways, and if you can do it in multiple ways, even better.
I really like that you brought up marketing because I think that's something that's really missing in a lot of uh, these game communities, and I don't mean like the projects themselves. I mean like the groups of people, and the individuals, the syndicates, and I think that's going to be the biggest differentiator because as our populations increase and as they're going to be A's that are going to drive people are going to want to breed with. There are going to be S's that people want to breed with, but then those numbers, the population is going to grow. So how do you differentiate? And I think the key there is marketing. So I'm really, really happy you said that. I'm really happy you brought that up. I think that's just wildly important. I think it starts with brand, and I think it starts with identity, and then it becomes, what value did you provide? What success did you provide? And it's more than just the stats. It's more than just what's on the track. I think there's a lot more
Exactly.
there.
Exactly. People want to have a horse from me,
Mhm.
and not even because it's a great horse, just because they got it from me. That's a cool dynamic for me, and other people should want to also be in that same position, right? If you want to be at the top of the food chain, right? And again, if you're a gamer, like you have a competitive spirit, like tap into that. Don't be afraid from it. Own it.
Yeah.
Like I'm not bashful. I know I have an ego. I recognize that, and I lean into it, right? And I think other people, we've been so conditioned in real life to like, well, fall in line and you know, don't go out of play. But in Web3, you can literally be who you want to be. You can be your true authentic self. And this is a great opportunity for me to actually showcase, you know, what I think to be value or valuable, and then to be my true authentic self of having this opportunity to really tap into my determination to be the best. That's something that I can be the best at. And this is honestly true for me when I was playing FIFA. This is true for me when I was playing Madden. But here's another new frontier now that we get to start from scratch, and a whole different dynamic where you can actually make money around it. And when you can make money too, like the proof is in the pudding. And I think that's the part that is really attractive to a lot of people. And somebody has to be the carrot, right? Somebody has to be the person that everybody else is chasing.
Mhm.
Why not me? And that's how I look at it.
Sure. Sure. And
Now,
there's
and
nothing
listen,
wrong with that.
there's a lot of people. Yeah, there's a lot of people that you can look up to. It's not just me, but I certainly want to be one of those individuals that you look up to. And then you know to reciprocate that, right, that value or that attention, right, I try to do my best to answer questions, to bring value to individuals, to give them some recommendations on what I would do. um, and so you really give back to the community because the community is helping you build your brand, and you really want to help them build their own brand as well. And so I'm very much, I don't want to say a karma believer. I don't know if I really believe in karma as a principle, because bad things happen to good people and good things happen to bad people. But I do believe in the idea of putting out good energy, and hopefully good energy or positive energy attracts positive energy in return.
So I want to kind of shift gears a little bit and go from the macro down to the micro. You mentioned, creating value and brand and, sustaining your stable through breeding, through studs. Speaking, specifically about keeping kind of that flywheel going, a major component that we talked about was breeding. Is there anything that you feel comfortable sharing in terms of your breeding style, breeding preferences, breeding strategies at all? We've got some questions from chat about this.
Yeah,
Um,
I mean the article is most of the alpha anyway. Um, there's not much in there that I've shared that I haven't done. I guess what I would say is the emphasis on like the advanced breeding techniques, or that section around moving great horses from one preference to another, is so I don't think so much more now, but at least in the early stages of the game, I don't even think the rest of the community, even after reading that article, really understood the value proposition of that particular section within the article. Um, and so that point still remains, right? And so today, right, you have amazing horses. Like let's use Can Pork Chop as the example, the number one best top earning horse of all time. Clearly, that horse knows how to win, and likely it will pass down some winning genes or some sort of um, yeah. I'll say a winning gene, right, or winning stats.
Hmm.
Why wouldn't you want to take Can Pork Chop out of left turf and put him in right turf, put him in right dirt, put him in left dirt? There's a lot of opportunity and value all the time to bring great horses who have that winning DNA and bring them elsewhere. And the whole breeding dynamic, right, of like putting different bloodlines together is a whole nother game within a game. And that to me is very much like chess, right? It's a puzzle. There's so many different ways you can put it together. And so if you can figure out that game or understand how that game works, right? And it's not only the names on the cards, right? Like the bloodlines themselves, but how the stars interact with those names. If you can figure that part out, you could bring a lot of value to the ecosystem. And so for me today, I'm not as interested in winning the big races. Of course, I would love to, don't get me wrong. Like, that's a total ego boost.
Yeah.
But if I can if I can make great horses that other people can utilize so that they can win their races and they can create great bloodlines on their side, I want to keep making those unique bloodlines for them so they keep coming back to me and then they can keep leapfrogging. And so I think the SS minuses are a great example of that, right? The two top graded horses in the game today, both of them have utilized my horses or the DNA or the bloodlines from the horses I've created. And so that should, reinforce the fact that the horses we're creating are great stepping stones for individuals to get to that next level that what they want to do.
You just took the words right out of my mouth. I was gonna say, like, do you almost view yourself as a strategic launch pad? Um,
100%. 100%. That's exactly who we want to be.
Interesting. I haven't
Like
heard that take, but I
almost like
like it.
a key and a lock, right? Like you have to unlock the next layer forward for you as a stable owner. We have the key. Here's the key for you. Go unlock your next level up. And then, I'm the key, like if I'm using a matrix analogy, I'm the key master.
Yeah, right, right. We got a question in chat from Year222. How do you gauge value when looking at a stud, seeing there's no guarantee it hits as much next season, future seasons?
Yeah, I love this question. I think generally speaking, the community middle curves this. All right. And I think just like in real life, right, if you just mimic the dynamic of real life, what type of horses do stable owners breed their fillies to? They breed them to winners. It's that simple. Left curve it. Is it a good horse? Does it win? Yes, it's a good horse. It wins. Breed it to the good horse who wins. I don't really share this often because I think it competes with what we're trying to do, but I'll share it. When I think a grade reveal is totally 1000% overrated. I can't tell you how many horses I've seen, 14 races, 0-2-1. And the owner's like, oh my God, I'm so happy I revealed an S plus. But your S plus didn't do shit. Excuse my language. It literally did not do anything for your horse. So why are you happy about that? Your horse was a total donkey. Why does anybody want to breed with that? Why do you keep breeding with other donkeys? Like find the winning bloodline and breed to that bloodline. Right? And as the game progresses, right, as the grades go up, the I would imagine, right, because this is all based on math, the probability of retaining that winning bloodline or that winning DNA or that winning gene from the sire probably gets smaller and smaller the higher up you go. Right? I don't have data to prove this yet, and
Same.
the data crunchers out there, MJ, look at some of these horses, right? And it's very clear that prime time passes along winning DNA. It's very clear that Agua Eclipse in LTS passes along winning DNA. There's a lot of lower grade horses that pass along winning DNA. And again, I'll say this on the stream. I hate to give up some alpha, but the one thing the community is missing is probably the most important metric or metrics of all. And I have them because this is what we're doing and how we view the game. But shame on Gap Data, shame on MJ, shame on Photo Finish Edge, shame on Photo Finish. Nobody is providing the community with true breeding results. Who are the best studs? I bet you nobody can answer that today. I can. I know who they are. What
Do,
metrics, what data are you looking at to prove one is better than the other? Nobody is providing that information back to the community. And so what's the community doing? They're spending 50 bucks breeding with XYZ horse because it has an SS stat somewhere that is meaningless because it's not producing winning DNA.
what are those metrics that stand out to you?
I can't share that.
That's fair.
You got
That's fair.
you guys can build that. You
Sure.
guys can figure out what does the community want to see.
Yep.
But there is zero doubt based on the data that we've seen that shows which horses produce more winners more regularly than others. For example, for example, look at the top 10 leaderboard, or let's look at the top 100, right, on the Photo Finish website. What's the one thing they show there in that leaderboard? They show the sires for the best horses in the game. That is not by accident. It's not by accident. Look who just won the third time cup today. Shout out to my boy Wolof. Shout out to my boy Lieutenant Lollipop. Haskashin, or I forget the name. Haskasin, whatever it is. Sire was Pasture Ass. Pasture Ass also the sire to Ghost Train Hayes, which is a top 10 horse of all time. Pasture Ass also sire to like 15 other horses in the top 100. That's not by accident. Pasture Ass is an amazing stud. An amazing stud. And there's plenty of data around that that the community doesn't see. And again, a lot of this is left curve information, right? Do they
Sure.
win? How often do they win? What kind of ROI are they producing? Those are the kinds of things that the community needs, and they're not even asking for. So shame on the community as well, because you guys aren't asking the right questions, right? And so goes back to me treating this like a business. These are the KPIs, the metrics I'm looking at to make sure that I'm creating the best horses possible.
Love it. I love it. That was great. I'm gonna counter
So I
you a
put
little bit on that.
fire
Not
away.
saying that I have all of the data, but I'd say this is probably my most overlooked tool is my breeder board. And
Let's see it.
thank
Let's
you.
see it.
I'm so POV.
Let's see it.
All right,
Share
all
it. Let's
right,
go,
all right,
baby.
all
Let's
right.
go.
Hold on. Let me pull this out for you. Um, and I don't claim it to be any sort of magic sauce or unlocking any secrets or anything like that. It's very straightforward.
Well,
Um,
here's the thing too, MJ, right? That this is a game,
yeah,
right? And the game has to have some variability, has to have some randomness. The whole goal in any business, in any game, is to increase your probability of being correct or making the right decision.
yep,
Because you're never going to do it 100% of the time. And so when you think about those probabilities, how do you find the studs that give you the highest probability of moving in a direction that you want to move in? And yes, the mares absolutely pass down genes and alleles, and the team has written plenty of articles around this. Right? I see Golden Glow Master right in that question. The mares absolutely contribute to that, and certain mares are going to pair better with certain studs. I would argue the breeding reports are not necessary. They are definitely helpful, but they are not necessary. Left curve the game. If I see that Primetime breeds some the best horses season after season after season, I don't have to think twice. I know I can just go to him, breed my horse, and I have a very, very high likelihood of having a really good competitive horse. Can I say the same about, XYZ horse? I don't know. But that's the data that we need or the community needs to make more intelligent decisions. Right. But then it goes to, well, if everybody's picking the best horse, everybody's zigging, what are you going to do as an individual to zag? All right. They bob, you weave. All right. So finding those inefficiencies in the market is a whole nother game within the game uh, that I think as people play this and really get into breeding and racing, It's so fun. It's so awesome. It's a totally unique dynamic that we haven't really experienced anywhere else.
Love it. I'll throw this up here. Um, so what I have here is my breeder board filtered to pasture ass. And what you can see is obviously the sire name, the sire grade. Every horse has been bred with pasture
Can you
ass, their
can you
grade.
share can you share your screen?
Sorry, I can't with you. You'd have to throw it on the.
Oh,
It'll crash probably ours. I threw the link in chat. Or you could just hop on if you just view the Twitch feed.
yeah, yeah.
Um,
Let's go.
and so, and there'll be a slight delay there, so that might be a little weird listening to that. But you'll see the dam grade, the horse, and you can click. You can actually view the individual horse, and of course, it didn't load. Give it a sec. Um, uh, see the average grade improvement. So it's looking at like the average of both of those horses. Did it go up? Did it go down? Obviously, that can be skewed a little bit if you're breeding up super high. But then you can look at the number of races, the win rate, or sorry, the podium rate of those horses. Scroll down, you can see the grade, the preference, number of horses, percent filly, sire improvement, average grade improvement. You can see that actually goes up. The different track preference changes, so direction, surface condition, number of races, and then total win rate. And obviously there's going to be noise, especially when you go this big. But I think this is something that is often widely overlooked by the community, and something that I've shared on stream before. And I think you can get a lot of valuable intel. Also, if you've bred with a bunch of different horses and you can't keep track of them, for example, if I throw in, my I'll say like breeding cornerstone. I don't know why she's not coming up right now, but it's because of the grade filter. Um, you can see a list of every horse that they've bred with and outcomes. If you want to go back, you want to hit something again. There she is. And it allows you to look at high level, not super granularly, but the different kind of performance you've had. You can see that she's done extremely well, 28% full win rate and improvements across the board, in almost all of her stats, with a 33% filly rate and 9 horses. So been very happy with her. But it's a great way to keep track of your breeds, and it's a great way to, at least, again, I'm not saying this is unlocking any secrets or is going to guarantee any outcomes, not financial advice. But really it's a good way to like deep dive. So we're getting on a tangent. We'll circle back to you, but the
No, I
general
love it. I love it. No, stay on this
strategy
tangent. Stay
that
here.
Sure, yeah. The general strategy that I have is to use my stud barn, to use my breed barn, identify potential studs you want. Then, and here's all right, we're gonna go, here's a little secret for all of you, that I shared maybe 2 streams ago, but it seems to be, according to the feedback I'm seeing in chat, a lot of new people in here. So let's say I'm looking to breed. I've narrowed down my studs, right? And I'm just picking random horses here. And I say, hey, Lorber is in my criteria of, top few that I'm potentially interested in. Let's do also Bertram Cooper. Well, if I want to select, all of these, all I have to do now, if you're on Windows, control click, and it will select that. We'll go down, we'll select one more. Let's do Bedlam down here. And another control click, and you're going to see this little box pop up. It's going to say keep only. Click that. All right, so here's some alpha for all of you. Advanced breeding. And now you get a very direct comparison of these 3 studs side by side. Number of horses, filly percent, sire grade. It's zoomed in, so you can't really read it too well. Average grade improvement, direction, surface condition, number of races, and win rate. So looking at this, like, wow, Lorber's a B. I have, a low grade horse. There's a lot of potential here, but wow, also look at Bertram Cooper. RDF, really high percent win rate, with 8 foals. So maybe that's not enough for me. Oh, Bedlam, 23 horses, more than average amount of fillies, I love that there's a decent direction improvement here and also condition. 93 races and a 22%, 23% win rate. It allows you to do super, super fast comparisons um, that before were a little tougher to do. And again, it's not a guarantee, um, but it's something that and with all my tools, my goal is to not tell you how to do something. It's to give you the information so that you can apply that information to your strategies and do what you want to do. So enough of that tangent.
No, no,
Um,
this is actually a really important tangent because again, what you're saying is it's not a guarantee, right? But it's all about probabilities. And how do you, if I can get, right, again, you think at the highest levels in any sport, people are looking for that 1% edge. And that's the thing that people don't understand how critical and valuable it is, right? And so I've used the breeder board before. I think MJ, you've made a lot of updates to this since the last time I've used it.
oh yeah,
Let me say this: there are things in here I like, and there are things you're missing. I'm not going to tell you what you're missing because again, I think that's alpha for me.
sure.
But if you super left curve this and you just say, what is the win rate of the foals? And you're disregarding, right, all the noise, like you said. You're disregarding, like, if you're cross preference breeding, right, of course, that's going to drive your number down. You're disregarding, like, how many races, how many horses are in each of the races the horses are running in, right? How much are they winning in benchmarks versus graded, right? So there's a lot of noise there that um, could make those percentage points flux again even further.
Sure.
But this is a fantastic start, fantastic way for people to think about what is the future state of what I'm trying to build look for or look like. And it's at every grade. And I think the thing that people are overlooking is they get so caught up with what the grades look like. I need S plus, I need this, I need, you literally do not. How many races have we seen where an A plus can beat an S or S minus beats S pluses? It happens all the time. So it's not just about the grades, right? It's also about what the horse can do under the covers. And you're crazy if you don't think that that third time is showing us or not showing us everything that's under the hood of what these horses have.
If I had a dollar every time someone asked me about how to get up to the top grade possible, I would be a billionaire. Um, but yeah, no,
You don't need the highest grade. You need the best winning horse. That's what you need, the best winning horse. You don't need the highest grade.
I don't think I've raced a single S horse, and according to Gap, I had one of the best win rates in the game. Um, and am I the highest earner? Absolutely not, because I'm racing in lower grade races. I'm not going to race in the stakes race, but I'm having fun. I'm winning. I have a quality stable. It's that to me is so much better than just like trying to constantly reach for something. So let's get back on track here. It was a great, great breeding discussion. I really appreciate that. Um, so I mean, talking about people wanting top grades and getting into the game and newer players and exposing them to the information, not financial advice. What's the one thing you would tell a new player? What's the one thing that they should know? Is it don't reach for the grade, or is it something else?
Like when you first start, you're saying?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Specifically for new players.
All right, so let's split this apart: crown economy point of view, and then derby economy point of view.
Okay.
I think for anybody, like when I introduce this to people in real life, and they're like, "Holy crap, you do what?" You're like, "This is a thing. Like, how does this even work? I want in." The first thing I always tell people is buy some crown. Doesn't matter how much it is, $10, $20, $30, and stake it, and just get familiar with the ecosystem, and you actually get to watch your derby balance grow, right? Even if it's small, you get to feel the game in motion, right? You get to understand, like, what does toll collecting really mean, right? As every race goes off, you get a little rip of that, right? Even if it's half a penny, right? Well, guess what happens when there's a million races, right? That adds up. So I think having exposure to crown and staking crown is absolutely the number one recommendation I would always make, and that's going to be part of my article that comes out in the next couple of weeks. Get exposure. It's it's very liquid. You can exit. Yeah, listen, you may make a couple dollars, you may lose a couple dollars, but think of it from a pure game mechanic standpoint. Get exposure to the racing economy through Crown. From a derby standpoint, and again, this really comes down to people's budgets and their egos, right? And so there's no right or wrong answer here, and it really again depends on what you're trying to accomplish. Just know that The more money you spend, the more complex the game becomes, right? You're dealing with sharks and wolves, and saber-tooth tigers, right? And people who are out to eat and take every dollar that exists in the game, right? Because that's how the highest levels will compete. So if you're going to dip into those deep waters, right, you got to be able to know what you're doing. So I'd always recommend you get your feet wet first. Start with a lower grade horse. Start with the claimers, right? Understand how that dynamic works. Get a really good value for, or a really good understanding of how the market values horses. What makes a good horse? What doesn't make a good horse? And I think that that's the easiest place to start, in my opinion. Get a little bit of crown or a lot of bit of crown, again, depending on your situation. Get some exposure there, and then really pay attention to claimers. I can't think of a better way to get involved in the game. And again, we said this before, but just to reiterate the point, the game is constantly in motion. The horse population is constantly in motion. Don't feel like you're getting left behind, having to buy the best horse available. You can always make the next greatest horse. You could start at an A and breed up to an S, breed up to an S plus. You can get there, right? Just comes down to patience and ego. If you need to win today because this is your thing today, and you want to show off, for sure, go make it happen. Uh, and I wrote this in my article, you got to have patience. I think if you can remove the FOMO and just stick to having a patient and well thought out game plan or roadmap, that is as critical and vital to success as anything else, right? And again, if this is a business, which it is, you have to have a business plan and ask questions. I mean, there's so many people who are willing to help, the OGs to the experts to the newcomers who are learning and seeing the game from a different POV. Consume as much content as you can. All of those things will help you formulate your own opinions, and then you can attack the game, based on what you believe to be the right path forward.
And I think we are going to end there because that
Boom.
I think is brilliantly said. A great kind of stopping point. I see so many people that have a goal, but they don't have a plan. And so thank you for saying that. And I encourage everyone, think about your plans. What does that look like? Did you learn anything tonight? We had a great conversation about construction, about breeding, about goals and goal setting, and how to view this, and kind of viewing this through a different lens than maybe some of you might be doing. So, encourage you think about your plans. Commish, on behalf of Solanaut, thank you so much for joining me tonight. I want to give a shout out quick to all the new followers. We have RHDC Stables, Drug Ford, T Merc, LA Benji, K Baker, and Riptide Soul. Before we part for the evening, though, we had a question early on stream from Lino over on Kick. And Lino said he wanted to know if your horse statue has a name.
It does have a name. It does have a name, actually.
Are you willing to share that name?
Uh, Not today. I'll
Okay.
share it another day. I'll share
Okay.
it. It does have a name though. It's a family name, but I will. I love that question, but not today.
Okay. And then Lino wants to know when he can play you in FIFA because he is very much
Well,
looking forward
yeah.
to that.
Listen, I felt bad growing up because again I'm Argentinian. I was always playing with Batistuta, and then I had Messi. I always had like some of the best strikers in the game. I had Crespo and Tevez. So I think I haven't played FIFA in years, but I would love to play again. So anytime you want, my man, anytime we can play.
Love that.
But
Love.
MJ, I want to say thank you. I also want to say thank you to Stens because Stens is the reason why you and I exist today.
Yeah.
So shout out to Stens. But MJ, thank you for the platform. I really appreciate it. I hope people can learn a few things, and always happy to answer questions anytime. So if you guys want to follow up on anything, feel free to ping me at any time.
Where can people find you?
You can find me in the Discord at Commish. I'm in all the time. I'm sitting at my desk right now. I have my work computer on my left, my other work computer on my right. And then on Twitter, you can find me at Solanaut Stables. I don't really use my personal Twitter that much anymore, but Solanaut Stables is really where I run the business account from. So anytime you guys need to reach out, feel free.
Great. Thank you. And thank you to Yer and Faust Lives for the follows. I'll catch you next week, chat. Next week will be an edutainment stream. So we'll be going deeper into some of my tools and how to use those tips, tricks. If you have questions about your stable, want to talk about horse performance, breeding strategies, all of that, that will be next week, along with my stable starter giveaway. That is 100 crown, 8,000 derby, and a left dirt? No, right turf. A grade filly, A plus grade filly. And a logo package for Prospect Huddle, all going to one lucky winner. Thank
Wait,
you.
MJ. Wait,
Yeah,
wait, wait. Hold on. Don't end it yet. How much derby are you giving away?
giving away 8,000 derby.
Let's double it, baby. I'm contributing another 8,000.
Let's go. All right, you heard it here. Now 16,000 derby. Thank you so much. That is so generous. That was huge. So we are going to. Someone's definitely going to get off on the right foot. You'll have some racing. You'll have some breeding, and think about how that could fit into a plan that you might have for your stable. I'll see you next.
Hold on.
Yeah?
Hold on.
But wait, there's more.
Billy Mays. But wait, there's more.
Exactly.
Let's make it 24,000, MJ.
24,000 derby. Oh my God. 24,000 derby, 100 crown, and a filly. Your stable will get up and running. Your stable will be good to go. Whether you're brand new, whether you're existing, everyone is encouraged to enter. I will see you next week. Solanaut, Commish, thank you so much.
Wait. Hold on. I'm not done yet.
He's not done yet. We've got more. What's next?
Let's make it 40,000 derby. 500 bucks.
Holy shit. $500. 40,000 derby.
Let's do
Stable
it.
starter giveaway sponsored by MJ Gaming, Prospect Huddle, and now Solanaut Stables.
Let's do it. 500 bucks. We got it.
$500, 40,000 derby. Done. All right. Thank you so much. Unless there's more.
I think that's it.
You've been more than generous.
Yeah, we're going to do 500. I'm going to send you the 500 right after this.
All right. Sounds good. And chat, I will see you next week for a ginormous giveaway. Thank you so much for your